With Palworld releasing on PS5, there is a massive influx of new players that need the best tips and tricks from veteran Palworld players. Now, I'm not talking about myself though, because I have no idea what I'm doing, but my Discord is filled with amazing players, and a lot of them have given some great tips. Let's go through them, and don't forget to join the Discord below. Welcome to my brand new save where I'll be testing all of these tips and tricks in real time. I have added in some items and some cool pals to traverse around, but here we go. The first tip is brought to you by Basil T, Basil Legend. They're saying that catching 12 kinds of the same pals will give a huge experience boost, which is totally true. I tell this to everyone that catching pals is by far the easiest way to level up. At least until you get to the higher levels like 50 and onwards. Then you have to get a little creative in how you gain experience. I don't know the exact experience amounts you get or the experience boosts, and I'm sure I could probably calculate them, but I really don't want to. But what you need to know is that this gives a pretty significant boost in experience, and you should totally do this to level yourself up. The next tip is brought to us by Random the Support Unit, and it states to try not to kill the giant grassy elephant. Well, let's see what happens when I try to kill the giant grassy elephant in the first starting area. If you're not aware, Palworld has overworld and dungeon bosses known as Alpha Pals. You can tell this is an Alpha Pal based on the fact that this giant health bar is here on my screen. I'd like to introduce Mamarist, the king of the forest. Okay, so little old MegaBits here is currently level 1, has no idea what this game is about, but wants to catch the big elephant with this pal sphere that he found on the ground. Let's watch what happens when he throws it with less than a 1% catch rate. Yeah. So yeah, this is a really good tip. Why can't I pet Mamarist even though it's friend-shaped though? Well, I don't know, but we did learn a valuable lesson. Don't try to kill or catch the giant grassy elephant if you're not high enough level for it. Our next tip is brought to us by Plutonian Wizard, and they say that using pals to keep warm and cold is a better idea than always carrying 3 different sets of clothing. Right now, night has fallen, and boy am I cold. So much so that I'm constantly taking damage. Now, this can be fixed in a few ways when you're starting out. 1, you can use a torch, but meh. 2, you can get cold-resistant armor, like, for instance, this cold-resistant pelt armor I have. Ah, so warm. You can also use a thermal undershirt. Ah, so warm. Or you can do what this next tip says, and get a fire pal, like this Fox Sparks here. Ah, so warm. Now, this is the exact same for hotter areas, like, let's say, Twilight Dunes. Man, is it hot today or is it just me? Shoot, I wish I had some pal in my party that would make me cool again, so I don't die from the heat laser known as the sun. Now, this is where my ice pal Chillit comes in. If you look down here, you can see what your limits are with either hot and or cold temperatures. For example, I put on my heat-resistant pelt armor and watch what happens. Now with this, I can survive in this desert, but I wouldn't be able to survive in a higher temperature place like the volcano. That's where your accessories come into play, or even your ice pals. Crazy Jack M26 gave us 2 good tips, one of those being to not play in hard mode. Now, I'm not going to set this to hard mode because I essentially have already shown this on this channel of why it's a bad idea with some challenge runs I did. If I die, I will delete the save. Oh my god. It's too difficult, but... So yeah, don't do hard mode if you're new. Learn the game and its mechanics first. Then you can be like MegaBits and do stupid things like a permadeath run with impossible settings. Now the next tip from Jack is a good one because the Pal Anubis is amazing for your base. Let's go catch these 2 pals first. The easiest place to get a Celeray is around here at coordinates 208 and -364. This is right by the starting location, so they should be pretty easy to get. Relaxosaurus will be slightly more difficult to get, but if you come over here at coordinates -217 and -348, you can find a lot of them roaming in this area. They usually travel in packs of 3 if you're using normal PAL spawn settings, unlike myself here. Now that I have my 2 pals, I can throw them into the breeding farm like this, and then I just wait as they get to work. Now I have no idea how these two are, well, doing this, but it's fine, and nature is just confusing sometimes, I guess. Quick tip, if you get the monitoring stand, you can manually assign your pals to different parts of your base without needing to pick them up and throw them to where you want them to be assigned. So that's a good one. The egg is ready, I'm now hatching it, and boom, we have an Anubis now. Anubis is amazing because it has level 4 handiwork, level 3 mining, and level 2 transporting. All in all, this is a fantastic pal to have starting out, and it isn't too hard to get. You can get one of these relatively early. We have some pretty good tips coming from Derek next, and they're all really good. You should definitely make yourself some fast ground and fast flying mounts. Some of my favorites to use in early game are Univolt for a ground mount, which can be found at the Deep Bamboo Thicket at coordinates -324 and -202. They're also around level 15, so getting them early on is fairly easy. Now, if Univolt doesn't tickle your fancy, there's another neat pal that was released with the Sakurajima update called Dazemoo. You're able to get these relatively early on if you go to Twilight Dunes at -172 and -99. They spawn all over the place at level 20 or so, and if you're running on sand, they get a boost to their speed. So yeah, Dazemoo or Univolt, they're really great ground pals. I'd highly recommend getting them. A good flying mount to start out with can be a Nightwing, since they spawn in the starting area at level 10 or so. Let's talk about this next tip about a cool pal named Vixie. Vixie is a lower level pal that you can get really close to this same area. Vixie is a must in the beginning of any sort of playthrough because of its partner ability, Dig Here. This ability allows Vixie to dig up items from inside of your ranch. So things like spheres and arrows it will get for you, which is going to save you resources and potentially gold. So I have a lucky Vixie here on my main save, and by the way, since I'm on PC, I've modded my game to have different color variants of Lucky Pals. Sorry, I should have said that earlier, but anywho, while Vixie is here in the ranch, it'll dig up items for me. Like, I now have one more pal sphere that I didn't before. It seems like a small amount, sure, but if you're going out adventuring and come back after a while, it can have a lot of good early game items for you. The last tip from Derek is a way to grind experience while trying to get to level 55, and it's a good one: breeding. Breeding will give you experience for every single pal you catch. So if you're crazy, like me, and have your own breeding base, like this one, you can breed a lot of pals really fast, thus gaining you experience and finally getting to level 55. And the craziest thing is, this isn't even the most crazy breeding base. I've seen some insane bases that people have made. So it really is a great tip. Thanks for all of your tips, Derek. Our next tip comes from Mac Toxa, letting us know about how amazing Galeclaw can be. So let's explore that. Galeclaw is a very annoying pal because it will attack you for you literally just looking at it. Like, look at this dude. You can find Galeclaw in the Deep Bamboo Thicket, but be prepared because they are going to put up a fight. Once you get to level 23, you can unlock the Galeclaw gloves, which will essentially allow you to use Galeclaw as a glider, and it is awesome, I'm not gonna lie. Mac also talks about how it can help during boss fights, since dodging with it is pretty easy. If you have the stamina, that is. Now let's talk about this next part where it's talking about grapple launching. Now, you may be asking, what is it? And I have no idea, but I'm assuming you use your grappling hook to hook onto something and then launch off with that Galeclaw. So let's see how it works. Oh, I get it now. Okay, so realistically, with a grapple launcher and a Galeclaw, you could technically become Spider-Man if you're good enough with it. Cool tips, thanks Mac! Our next few tips come from Eduardo Astrobonico III. I'm not going to go over all of them, but there is a couple that I really like. The first one being about being efficient with your time and gold within Palworld. Gold can be a finite resource in this game when you're first starting out, as are your resources, so you really need to be smart with it. If you come to the small settlement here at coordinates 74 and -487, you can find a couple merchants that'll be of use. The first one being the Pal Merchant. This merchant will sell an assortment of random pals, but they'll also buy pals off you. So if you're using the tip about leveling up early on by catching pals, you're going to have a lot of pals that you really don't need. So sell them off here for some gold. With this newfound gold, you can come over here to this wandering merchant and buy things like arrows, berries, wheat, seeds, etc, etc. There's a lot of good starting items you can get here, and if you buy them, you won't be wasting resources or your time. The next tip Eduardo gives us is about Wildlife Sanctuary number 1. If you're unfamiliar, Palworld has a total of 3 wildlife sanctuaries across the map that have differing levels of pals. Each sanctuary will have pals that are more rare, and even some pals that can only be found within said sanctuaries. We'll be looking at Wildlife Sanctuary number 1 for this example. First things first, this is illegal in the Palpagos Islands. The PIDF will shoot you on sight if they catch you sniffing around here, so be sneaky. There's a lot of great pals here that can help you on your adventure. There's Pen King, which is one of the best pals in my opinion because I love their hat and they're awesome. There's Azarobe, Grisbolt, Elphadran, Patalia. There are some other pals you can get, sure, but these are the ones of note. Also, I found a lucky Pen King while I was waiting for Patalia to spawn, so that is neat.
Okay, I know this is a tips and trick video, but that's a lucky Pen King. And it's pink. Again, I love this mod. It looks so good. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
The next tip is from a random dude, and they're telling us about breeding charts in Palworld. Did you know that the Relaxosaurus could have bred with Celeray to get the Anubis before this video? Because it is crazy some of the combos you can do to make certain pals. Like, why does a Toko Toko and a Gory Rat make a Woolly Pop? I have no idea, but the list is insanely long, so this is an amazing tip and an even better tool for any Palworld player. If you're interested, you can find this and a whole bunch of other tools you can use for Palworld at palworld.gg. Thanks for the tip, random dude. The next tip comes from cats or dogs, core/fruit lord. They say to not grind for spheres, but instead go to Sakurajima and open chests for better spheres. Let's go try that out now. I'm gonna get rid of everything in my inventory, then go treasure hunting for a few minutes to see what we can get. I end up doing this in almost every single one of my challenge runs, and I always tell you guys, this is A, a great way to get a lot of items you wouldn't normally get, but B, it's just a great way to pass the time in my opinion. If you go to a higher level area and do some looting of chests, you will for sure get better items, including spheres, gold, blueprints, and pal souls. See, after only a couple minutes, literally like 2 or 3, I got some pizza, ammo, some gold, dog coin, and 14 legendary spheres. It really is a good tip. Thank you so much, Fruit Lord. Now, the last but not least, final tip, maybe the most important tip, is to subscribe to me here on YouTube. Please, I'm begging. I post a pretty significant amount of Palworld content, and I play the game in ways that keeps it interesting as we wait for more content. I'd really appreciate any support you could give, but that's all I got for today. Bye!